Good morning, Mets fans. It's Wardy here, and we have breaking Mets news to get into, which dropped over the past couple hours from Jeff Passan of ESPN, which is the following. The Simone Southpaw is back, baby. Sean Manaea has signed a 3-year, $75 million deal, so that is exactly what we're going to deep dive. Everything that you guys need to know on Sean Manaea and his continued game. Why is David Stearns bringing back the Simone Southpaw for 2025 and beyond? How does this payout structure look with his contract? And ultimately, what are the moves going forward for the Mets as they continue their tremendous offseason? Everybody, let me see your initial reactions in the comments down below. Truthfully, the only reason why I didn't go live for this right away is because I was sound asleep, unfortunately. And yes, it was one of those rare occasions where my phone fell on my bedside. So even though my phone got blown up from some people around the time of it happening, it was vibrating, but the ringer wasn't fully on, so I didn't even wake up to it. It was heartbreaking to roll a couple hours later to see that Jeff Passan broke the news like 2+ hours ago. I was like, oh no! But yes, let's break it down now because I'm absolutely ecstatic. This is one of the key arms that I've been wanting the Mets to bring back all off season long, and now they have in fact done exactly that, everybody. Let's see the reactions. Shout out to our amazing sponsor at BetUS, which has you covered with all your sports betting need, folks. Use our promo code YouTube150 at betus.com.pa today for whatever you want to bet on. That way, YouTube get a 150% bonus on your first deposit, $125 after your second, and your third up to $2,000 for whatever you want to bet for. And folks, David Stearns and Sean Manaea, they were working late night that we saw over this past day, and it in fact worked brilliantly. I love this contract for Sean Manaea, as I do the Mets here. They didn't go too far, and I'm absolutely ecstatic with the fact that the Mets now have the amount of depth that they do for the rotation. Would I like them to add more? Yes, absolutely I do, but am I at least content with where they are currently at for the most part? Yes, to an extent I am, and I'm really happy to expand on that right here, right now, everybody, because as we see from Jeff Passan, there's a report beside me. As we see from the Simone Southpaw's numbers right down there below, please ignore where it says contract 2025 player option. I made this graphic going back to the early goings of the offseason when Sean Manaea hadn't even opted out of that option yet and hadn't turned down the qualifying offer at $21.5 million. But the Simone Southpaw returns to Queens, everybody, and this was a match made in heaven. Sean Manaea was not only a tremendous one-year option for the Mets this past year, with a second-year player option there, that being in Sean, like Luis Severino excluding the player option, but those were two guys that really blossomed well, fine-tuning their games at the MLB level in 2024. Sean Manaea utilizing that we saw, the high sinker greatly, that sweeper that was oh so nasty, and ultimately that arm slot change throughout the course of the 162, just like Chris Sale, which made Sean Manaea go from a solid starter to an ace caliber starter at times. More consistent 6 innings of 3 or less earned runs, 7 innings of 2 or less earned runs, dominating strikeout performances. We haven't seen lines a Mets pitcher has put up other than Jacob deGrom in recent years, which is what we got in Sean Manaea this past season. A 3.47 ERA, a 3.75 expected ERA for the veteran lefty, a 3.96 SI ERA, and Sean Manaea's numbers were very strong in the 2024 year, and they were equally as strong with his character and his personality. Why did Sean Manaea make so much sense to the return of the Mets outside of their glaring need for more ace caliber pitchers in this rotation? Because now you look at the rotation right now, and in no particular order, even though I can understand some may want to order it this way, now you got Sean Manaea, Kodai Senga, Frankie Montas, David Pearson, Clay Holmes, Paul Blackburn, Trevor McGill, Griffin Canning, and even Brandon Sproat, who we all expect to break out of the scene from the prospect development side of things in 2025. Just like that, the Mets do have a plethora of arms now, and I think, yes, we would all love one more, and hopefully the Mets go and find themselves down that route again, but I do have a lot more confidence heading into 2025 with at least a three-headed monster of a healthy Kodai Senga, Sean Manaea, and David Peterson after what we saw in 2024 from DP. And the Senga Montas, again, this is one of the closer friends that Sean Manaea has in all the game of baseball, going back to their time in Oakland. They're rekindling that relationship. Montas, who I think is going to benefit greatly in this Mets pitching lab, coming off of a strong year where he pitched over 30 games that we saw between the Reds and the Brewers, coming off a major shoulder injury during his time that we saw in a little stint there with the Yankees to a degree, but no less, having all these guys now paired in this rotation together is oh so exciting to see, and that personality, as I highlighted a second ago by Sean Manaea, is very important here. The same way he dominated on the field is the same way that he dominated in the clubhouse and in that Mets dugout. It's not just the constant times of being around the OMG sign, which was the case with Luis Severino as well, and man, it's really going to gut me to see that guy in the Sacramento A's jersey, because we all know, I understand he wanted the bag, but he would have been awesome to see returning the Mets. No less, Sean Manaea was as selfless as they came in this Mets clubhouse and the dugout. We heard endless stories of how he was such a big brother to so many other players out here, how charismatic he continued to be there in the clubhouse, and how much that he was just this positive light shedded on a lot of these players, versus a lot of times maybe having guys who are a little hot-headed on the pitcher end. But Sean Manaea never wavered with his personality. Even the days that he toes the rubber, it's very different than, say, Max Scherzer, for example. I know Max is a bit of an anomaly in his own right, because he's an absolute madman, but Sean is one of those guys that's just as cool as a cucumber day in, day out. And after having respective struggles big time with the San Diego Padres, where he's on record saying that he wasn't putting forth the best effort, so then going to the San Francisco Giants and working with Driveline to work on the best with his arsenal as both a starter and a reliever. Fast forward to signing a one-year deal with a second-year player option in Sean Manaea, and he put up the best numbers he has statistically in his career since back to the late 2010s during his time with the Oakland A's. Now, fast forward all these years later, the veteran lands right around a $25 million average annual value contract, which I think is absolutely chef's kiss. This is pretty much along the lines of what you'd be hoping that the Mets are landing, because there's no long-term commitment here in Sean Manaea. This is not a 4 or 5 year deal. This is just guaranteed 3 years, which will have him bringing to his age 35 season or so. And that sets up the Mets beautifully now when you look at the short and long-term outlook of their rotation. They don't have many long-term ties, which is exactly why there are more coveted guys that they may either acquire via trade to either land in, say, an extension format, or guys that they just want to pursue in the free agent market over the next year or two. They're going to have more flexibility to do so by not having set long-term commitments. Now, I understand, Mets fans, it doesn't mean that we don't still want a Walker Buehler. It doesn't mean that we don't still want potentially someone else via trade, whether that is a Luis Castillo, whether that maybe is giving some calls to the San Diego Padres, even though I think trading for a rental Dylan Cease is not really the David Stearns way. There are multiple teams to consider calling along with the Miami Marlins, even though we should have landed Jesus Luzardo, and I'll stand by that. I love Luzardo. I think that's a great pickup for the Philadelphia Phillies separately, a young, controllable southpaw that throws absolute gas. But listen, the Mets got their own Jesus Luzardo at home, as we would love to joke, with a guy that currently has a tremendous upside that's fine-tuning his game later on in his career. And you know what's actually insane about how he mentioned how Sean Manaea did things for the 2024 Mets that simply haven't been done since Jacob deGrom during his time with the Mets? Well, similar to Jacob deGrom, we all know Jake was consistent at being great pretty much since he made his debut there in the mid to right around mid 2010s or so. In the case of Manaea, he's really having a bounce back, a renaissance, not a renaissance, but really fine-tuning his game again after a couple of years now. And similar to how Jacob deGrom had continued success as he got older into then his early 30s, injuries aside, we're now seeing Sean Manaea benefit greatly. And when you look at all the peripherals from the 2024 season, they don't all stand out too great. The ground ball percentage is low. The fastball velocity is low because we know he's more of a soft tosser. He's right around league average and average exit velocity, chase percentage, whip percentage, above league average and K rate we saw this past season, just below league average and walk percentage here that we saw as well. And Sean Manaea, in comparison to, say, the 2023 season, absolutely night and day. In certain aspects, 2022, absolutely night and day. So Sean Manaea is still getting better with that sinker, sweeper, changeup, especially that changeup that we can't forget that has a lot of heavy influence from a guy like Chris Sale, the four-seam cutter, slider. And man, we are very fortunate to have a starter like Sean Manaea that's got a 6-pitch mix. He's throwing the kitchen sink at you, but he's going to utilize a high sinker in the zone that's going to work to a lot of key outs, including fly ball outs as well. And in the case of not only that, but the sweeper, lefty, especially, that thing has been an absolute thing of beauty. We watched Sean Manaea blossom what felt like, okay, a little bit of a reclamation project. If he could be a solid swingman for us, hopefully give us right around just under a 4-year ERA, most of us Mets fans will be happy. Well, no. Sean Manaea, like Luis Severino, and like the 2024 Mets in general, went leaps and bounds above expectations that a lot of fans, including myself, even had heading into the 2024 year. He was a tremendous part of the amazing Mets run that they had, along with Grimace, along with Rally Pimp, along with all the other other rallies that the Mets had going in the 2024 season. But now when you look at the depth of their rotation, you could sit there and have a smile on your face. I think there's no denying the Mets have plenty of that now. I think that, of course, you can never have too much quality in said rotation. That's something that I hope the Mets do still find themselves trying to land this offseason. And lo and behold, we will cover more on this either later today, much later today in the evening, in a separate live stream on what is continued to be next for this Mets team, as everything is pointing towards not only a Pete Alonso reunion, potentially bringing in Alex Bregman, which we have covered on the platform over the past couple days or so, on the Mets potentially landing not one or two, not one or the other, but rather both potentially paired. And funny enough, I just tweeted at the WardyNYM X account with over 66,000 followers. Check us out over there on X in case you haven't already, everybody, for the consistent support there as well. I tweeted, would you guys be satisfied with the final three major splashes that David Stearns makes this offseason? Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman, and Sean Manaea. Well, since then, one of those dominoes has fallen. No, I did not have any intel in advance that Sean was going to be signing this soon. It was just perfect timing in that sense. And now we look to see what happens more on the offensive market in the meantime with Alonso, with Bregman, and then, of course, with this Mets bullpen. Will they be adding any arms of quality of guys you know in the free agent market? Will it be more of guys that you never heard of that'll be available via trade as well, young controllable, that they may consider? Or more of these guys with spring training invites to have upside, but maybe coming off of down years, maybe just not great overall relievers at this point, but that's because they haven't been thrown in the lab to really utilize, say, more of that sinker splitty and less of that four-seam fastball. Cough, cough, Reed Garrett, for example. I think the Mets are going to find themselves really in a good position this offseason with the remaining moves that they have coming. But now we have something to say. Finally, they landed a quality piece of this rotation, even if they are not done, even if they are in fact done, which I know some fans may say they're a little underwhelmed by. I have a lot more confidence with this rotation heading into 2025 than I did heading into 2024, right? Because Kodai Senga sadly went down with injury right before the season began. Knock on wood, God forbid. Please, can we please have 1 year where an ace caliber starter starts the year on time? I don't remember the last time that's happened in my lifetime as a Mets fan for the most part. Like, never happens, unfortunately. But when you look at everything that the Mets have going now with the rotation, you can at least be happy about the amount of pieces that they have there. And as well, again, they have multiple guys that have quality. If Clay Holmes becomes truly a solid starter, this guy could be really surprising you as potentially your number 4. Frankie Montas, I think, is going to continue to surprise people this upcoming season. Velocity is looking great. Needs to rework that arsenal a little bit and fine-tune his game. He adjusted well with the Brewers in the second half of 2024. We're going to certainly get more out of him and everyone else in between. I just look at what is next for this Mets team. I love the rotation makeup. Would like a little bit more there, but now I also look at everything else that David Stearns has done this offseason. Let's not forget everything that they have also promised, that being in a guy in Sean Manaea, for example. We know that they're not done making moves, and that, pardon me, not in Sean Manaea. I sincerely apologize for that, everybody. I'm referring to Juan Soto. After the Juan Soto deal, a lot of people have this bizarre belief that the Mets are just going to be sitting on their hands, that they wouldn't be doing anything special, nothing that's really going to be noteworthy, which never made any sense whatsoever considering you just invested in Juan Soto, but to each their own. Sean Manaea was just yet another domino and a series of dominoes that is yet to fall this offseason for David Stearns, Steve Cohen, and everyone else in that Mets brass, folks. So I'm very excited to break down more on Sean Manaea and what is next for this Mets team, not only potentially for the rotation, but the other moves coming in the near future this offseason, potentially even before we reach this very happy and Merry Christmas. So guys, that is going to do it for me. I will see you all in future Mets content as we break down more on the Simone Southpaw coming back to Queens and what is next for the Amazons. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your initial reactions in the comments down below. How excited are you with the Simone Southpaw returning the Mets on a 3-year, $75 million deal, right around $25 million average annual value? This is the same structured contract that Nathan Eovaldi is currently on with the Texas Rangers as he returned back to Texas, as it is the same structured contract that Luis Castillo currently has with the Seattle Mariners. Yeah, I'm going to go on a limb and say that the Mets are absolutely still involved and are interested in that market, and if they can reach a proper price point, Castillo could just be that missing piece for this amazing rotation. Thank you guys again, and as always, no matter what, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.